Welcome back, everyone, to the Word Traction podcast. This is Donald Trump's long road to Fulton County, and was not traveling alone. He was physically, or perhaps more accurately, spiritually aligned with Vladimir Putin on this entire journey. And I just want folks to keep in mind, I know you wouldn't wish this upon your worst enemy. But you got to watch what Trump says tonight. Do you want to watch the report the next morning? Do you want to see the clips? I understand. It can make your stomach turn. But this is a developing strategy of election interference on a scale that we've never seen before in our lives. The maestro that has written this entire script is, of course, Vladimir Putin, and that goes back remarkably when Putin took over, just as we got done partying like it was 1999. He was, a fully trained KGB agent, FSB, the Yeltsin years, and the ups and downs. But he learned many lessons early in life when he was a spy. And running parts of a spy agency is controlling the media, is controlling the narrative, and taking captive the news stations and the newspapers early in his reign, still going strong at 73 or whatever Vladimir Putin is. He's been doing it all along and perfecting and learning and focusing his attention, and he's a lifelong learner, Vladimir Putin is. We have to give him credit for that, because when he brought his what would have then been a graduate level understanding of election interference and general fascist bullshit, and he was able to then perfect it once again with in various countries around Europe, and specifically the work that he did with Viktor Orban in Hungary. And of course, the connection is it's almost sounds like an absurdist tale, because it's just so perfect. But where Vladimir Putin taught his acolyte, Fat Victor, in Hungary, how to capture the media, destroy accountability by eliminating all their equivalents of special masters and such controls, and then attacking the judiciary, which Putin did also early in his career in Russia, where he had a tame Duma, a tame judiciary, and controlled the media. Ballgame. You just kind of ride out, and then you fill your accounts with as much as you can, and do a little warring, do a little gangbanging, and turn the page and live to fight another day. Go forward. Don't have a grievance. There are going to be disappointments along the way, just like Viktor Orban's most recent loss in Hungary that resulted in Peter Magyar's elevation. But these are things that Putin, as the grand master of this game, not to discount the importance of Xi Jinping, but he doesn't play in this part of the story at all, because he was not assisting Putin with his nefarious Russia-based operations. Putin didn't need the help. Then, of course, in 2013 was the year that Trump sold the pageant to Russia, and there were certain things that solidified the relationship in a much more profound and lifelong manner. Meaning, the what does Putin have over Donald Trump that goes above even Jeffrey Epstein level corruption? Right. Another episode. It's delightful, and it's as dark as anybody with a truly twisted imagination like mine could come up with. Uh, 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 Putin seems to even surpass many people's wildest and darkest fantasies. He's in the business of doing so, and he delivers day after day. But then, Trump was a captive audience. The Russian influencers and the GRU and other teams of election and social media experts that were there to help uh, elevate Trump while putting weights all over um, Hillary Clinton, drag her down and elevate him. It worked out just fine, and the deal was struck. As Trump went through, of course, they would have preferred to win in 2020. We've talked about that before on this platform, but Trump is still bearing a grudge, which part of it is it's performative because in order to do what he's going to reignite this evening in his State of the Union, I'm going to eat your elections edition. He would have needed the motivation. He wanted to perpetuate the the myth of the fake news, stolen elections, and election interference, while he was the one, with help from his friends in Russia and other places, who was doing the interfering themselves. But it's the perfect ploy because what he wouldn't do it in the open if you were doing something illegal. I mean, we've all kind of learned that is probably not an argument we want to rest on because everything the corruption right now is out in the open, not transparent, but it's brazen. There's a slight difference, right? So what we will hear tonight, will we have a featured player, someone like, oh, I don't know, how about Nasty Nick Maduro? Up until very recently, the supreme leader of Venezuela. He was, of course, abducted, uh, as was his wife, and removed from Venezuela, and essentially a bloodless, not quite coup, just an extraction, because all of the corrupt elements of the Venezuelan government were left in place, which is a problem for the Venezuelan people. But it fits Donald Trump's plans because he's stealing oil with both hands. And when the Venezuelan people are looking around for resources to um, to provide disaster relief after a double tap earthquake, those resources are nowhere to be found because they've been looted by a professional criminal organization. Cuba will be a different. Do we know exactly what Cuba is going to be? Are we going to use a large military force? I was reading an article this morning about the 101st Airborne going to be used on Cuba, like training exercise. That's after your boy Pastor Pete Hegseth does a testosterone examination of every soldier in the entire military. I guess excluding the ladies, but he doesn't want the women anywhere in the military to begin with. Certainly not in leadership roles. He's already fired most of them. But I thought that his testosterone infomercial that he published yesterday or the day before was very telling. They're not hiding the fact that there are incompetent people at the head of the government. They're celebrating the fact that Donald Trump is allowing the level of disruption and destruction of the government. That's part of the performative aspect of this entire adventure. Look at the confirmation hearings for the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, Mr. Clayton, who was having some verbal sparring matches with our friend and hero, John Ossoff, the distinguished, properly elected senator from the great state of Georgia, and he was having a very, very hard time. Mr. Clayton is a is a marvelously well educated man, an attorney, done a good job in various roles around the government and otherwise. He was he wasn't a Rhodes Scholar, but he went to King's College in London. Maybe he was a Rhodes Scholar. I don't think so, because that would have been in Blinking Lights. But I think it was just that he attended in postgraduate work at King's College in London. So a pedigreed government leader for sure, but he's having such a hard time saying what Trump wants him to say about election interference and such. But he can't hold the story. He can't keep it together well enough to make it a plausible argument. Now, will he end up having enough votes to be confirmed, just the way the lay of the land? Probably. It's kind of similar to the to Todd Blanche, that there is every reason to ding both Clayton and Blanche. But that's it's wishful thinking because the Republicans got a little wind gust going, so hold the camera. That enough Democratic Party members, they'll all oppose across the board. John Fetterman, he's nothing. He's not a Democratic Party member or a Republican. He's a failing free radical. And then there are those members of the Senate that have been kicked to the curb by Donald Trump, and he's just hoping that they will keep their shit together. Now, he can still threaten to send pizzas to their house, so they're not out of the woods. They're serving out the end of their term. They won't be in office again next year. But will Cornyn or others stand up and be counted as reliable human beings as opposed to party members? Remains to be seen. Murkowski, what will happen there? In the confirmation hearing vote, what will Susan Collins do? What will Lisa Murkowski do? There's a lot of debate. The numbers, the odds probably say that both men get approved. But the most important part now on both on Blanche, I think meeting with or listening to the testimony of Epstein survivors now, we have to continue that discussion out loud and support the victims as best we can without, it's a tricky line to walk, without ever exploiting the victims to take their lead in what they want to disclose and the way that they want to continue this press for their legal rights, dignity, and to make sure that the men that caused them so much pain are punished and put in prison. But we have to be very sensitive to the fact that these women have been through so very much, and then they've been dismissed and otherwise dissed by Pamela Joe Bondi, and up to now and into the future by Todd Blanche, that they've been so horribly mistreated. We have to really be sensitive to what they want and listen to their counsel and to the women themselves. So, yeah, but they will, Putin, the trip, as has been well reported, but sometimes not fully understood, that Putin, Orban, School of Higher Learning, that we had the Heritage and Project 2025 went there to learn at the elbows of of the fascists that were working in Hungary. And there were Russians always, at every time, within the Orban hierarchy. They were there as advisors. So when Heritage sent people over to learn about how do we do this, how do we become fascists in the United States, then they were actually going to classes, the curriculum that was written originally by Vladimir Putin, and they went willingly, right? Heritage did. So when you have Russell Vogt, the architect of the most recent version of Project 2025 and kind of the ringleader, is Russell Vogt a wholly owned subsidiary of Russian state security? I don't have any evidence of that. It would be a good move for Putin to have a backup plan to a fast declining asset like Donald J. Trump. But there are others. Of course, the intriguing one that we don't have the answer to yet is what is Putin doing for his next act? I mean, he's been planning now, looking at the way that Trump's behaving. He has to try to figure out what comes next. Is it a play for JD Vance? That would be a very dangerous play because JD Vance, despite his visit with uh, the king of podcasts there, yeah, that guy, um, yesterday, that Vance is I would say an unreliable sort. You know, he's he is a little bit all over the place. He has some very real personal defects in that he's seen as somebody who will be a chameleon and change their colors to whatever color Peter Thiel tells JD Vance to become, he will become, right? So yeah, has has Putin, like he's a prudent man, has he been playing his chips on a number of different spots on the roulette wheel, right? Does he have designs or control over Marco Rubio? I would grade that as less likely, as Rubio, despite his obsequious and embarrassing behavior with Trump, Rubio has been a lifelong anti-communist type. So that would be a harder sell. So I'm looking one level down from those two, the putative favorites in the 28th general of Vance and Rubio. I'd be looking at Don Jr. or another wild card. How else could Putin, with his friends out there, exert influence on those candidates? You know, is it through the wife of a candidate? Is it through the partner of a candidate? The child of a candidate? Not in JD. Those children are a little bit too young. But there are lots of ways to exert influence. And Putin knows all of them better than almost anyone ever has, because he's had, knowing the theory is one thing, but being able to test the theory in actual practice, make mistakes, learn, evolve, and improve. He's been doing it for a very long time. So that's why he's at the very top of his game when you compare him to other world leaders not named Xi Jinping. So is there going to be a surprise out there that someone was able to reach the spouse of one of the leading contenders for 2028? Wait to see. Don Jr. is an interesting one because obviously Putin is all well wired into the family to begin with, both with Donald himself and Melania. But for the next generation, you know, that's Don Jr. is, as I've said before on this format, I am betting that Don Jr. is the 2028 Republican nominee for president of the United States. What? Now, is that because there's a much better number available on him than there is on Rubio or Vance? A little of that. So it's you got to be open to all of the data points. But it's more delightful, and it also it if you believe in the narrative that Trump is driven, the corruption is asked and answered. That's already there and done. But that the legacy part, the sovereignty, the succession, a very good television show. Or we did an earlier episode on that, and we looked at the various leaders around the world. Like, does Xi Jinping have a son? There's nobody. There's a daughter. She was actually in the United States studying at Harvard under an alias before she was here and gone 10 years ago or something. Reportedly a very accomplished student, but she did it under an alias for obvious security purposes. Right? We talked about fat Kim Jong Un and his darling now 14 or 15-year-old daughter. Right? She's being groomed as his successor. His successor. Interesting. Vladimir Putin, two adult daughters, both married, both were accomplished to varying degrees in different disciplines, one more in medical and one more in business. But there is also the prejudice that is even stronger than it is in the US against a female leader. What Kim Jong Un is planning is he's facing the same thing in the Asian society, except for the brilliant Sanae Takaishi in Japan. It is still a male-dominated culture thing. Not to the degree. We're not talking about Pastor Pete level misogyny. We're talking about, you know, thousands of years of practice. But I still think that Trump, in the end, because of the legacy issue, what will carry his name, what he tried to do to the Kennedy Center, and the like. Wind gust. Good time for a drink. I still think that the allure of having his own son succeed him, being able to benefit. I mean, the boys are doing fine with the corruption with or without dad right now. They're wired in, right? But if you could see that Trump name twice in a record book, twice on a wall, that would be appealing to somebody like Trump, who all he's been doing is trying to secure his legacy. And Eric is probably not sharp enough, and Barron is too young. And the fact that his biological father was not an American citizen doesn't really matter all that much, but it would be complicated. So his namesake Don Jr. is the natural fit. So we'll get a lot of blather tonight. We'll get a lot of look at what we found. Think back to Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi will seem like a freaking dream compared to Clayton if he gets in there, because he's a lot smarter and trained. He worked for the Justice Department. He's a smart man and will be more damaging, much like Todd Blanche is, like the current head postmaster general is. These are accomplished business persons with good pedigrees and complete and absolute loyalty to Donald J. Trump, without a question. So thereby much more dangerous than their predecessors. Um, that's a concern. I don't. I would love to see Clayton go down in a ball of fire. And I was posting about him earlier today. He's made statements that are on their face by themselves disqualifying to hold any kind of role like that, making comments about elections that were not in his purview, and just, straight out lying and doing the Putin playbook about, I didn't say it, and if I did say it, you're taking it out of context. And even if you have it in the right context, you got it twisted. And even if you got it in the right context and got it twisted, then you're telling me about fake news that's already been discounted, right? Calling you a liar, prove me wrong. And Clayton was doing that all day yesterday with Asaf, with other members of the committee, and of course there's a magic to the time. Do they want to create? Are they are they lighting off bombs in D.C. right this minute to distract news coverage from Epstein victims, perhaps saying incriminating things about President Donald J. Trump right now? Is there are they calling in bomb threats? That's all part of the playbook. Is the disruption, right? That you broke the law. I'm declaring martial law. These elections were voidable because of the corruption, but we're going to void them now as a matter of national security. And that's where a guy like Clayton would work hand in hand with Blanche. And you could see it, you can feel it coming. But then on our side of the ledger, there's the Mark Eliases and the other proud election law experts who will be fighting back. Steve Vladeck, other people on this here platform that will be fighting valiantly for free and fair elections. But Trump has however much we dislike him, whatever disdain we hold in our heart for Donald J. Trump, he has a lot of buttons to push being in the White House. So as we had talked about before, does he use this? There's another newly generated MAGA story about Chinese election interference. Is that an act of the play that was co-written by Trump and Xi Jinping? Now, gee, if he could control it, which he can to a certain degree, he wants to keep Donald Trump in power. He would even take a Don Jr. for 4 more years after that, because otherwise there may be somebody in the office that isn't a fucking dope, right? More of a risk. It's just that's Putin's game plan all the way along. You know, better the useful idiot you can control. So yeah. So brace yourself. I just heard something, and it's the beautiful little puppy dog scratching his nails on the sliding glass door. So that means, Daddy, I need to go out. I deserve to go out. Damn it. Thank you. And kindly retweet whatever we stack, subscribe, of course, and share whatever notes and ideas you have, any thoughts that you have about the upcoming Trump vitriol express that's going to be pulling into your home about 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time tonight. And yeah, maybe we'll live tweet some of that vacuous bullshit between all of us. Thank you. And I'm going to try to lean in here and disconnect this thing without doing serious damage. And wishing you all a beautiful day. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you again tomorrow.